All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday, June 27th tag meeting, where we're working on our existing amendments report and significant changes report. Our chairs will not be available to attend this meeting today, and I've been looking at the attendees list as they join in here, and we're a couple shy of quorum at the moment. So I'm going to give about with this to let some more folks trickle in here, and then we'll begin our roll call on that one. Alrighty, it looks like we've got enough to establish a quorum here today, so I want to begin the roll call. For our chair primary, Todd Bayreuther is absent today. For the chair alternate, Roger Heringa is also absent today. For our architect primary, Joe Mayo.
Present.
Thank you. For the architect alternate, Chef Fortaleza. I'm not seeing her in our attendees list here yet. For building official primary, Tim Woodard.
Here.
Thank you. For the alternate, Steve Belzak.
Present.
Thank you. For fire services representatives, primary, Lance Dahl.
Here.
Thank you. For cities and counties, primary, Hoyt Jeter. Not seeing him in our attendees list today. For cities and counties, alternate, Sean Karlstrom. I'm not seeing him in here either. For affordable housing representative primary, Todd Sullivan. I am not seeing him in here today. For general contractor or developer, Bill Mybush.
Present.
Thank you. For manufacturer supplier primary, Brian Horstman. Not seeing him in attendance today. For structural engineer primary, Joshua Mergens.
Present.
Thank you. For the alternate, Trent Tinney. Not seeing him online. For building owner property manager primary, Brett Conway. I believe he's going to be a little bit late today. I skipped over one, persons with disability or accessibility expert, Michael Shaw.
Here.
Thank you. For general public subject matter experts, primary, Michael Barth.
I'm here.
Thank you. For the alternate, Leah Summer.
Present.
Thank you. For the state enforcement agency, primary, Paul Clark.
Here.
Thank you. And for fire protection engineer, primary, Andy Liato.
Present.
Thank you. So with that, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 seats represented. So we have one more than we needed for quorum, and so we can begin the business. First order would be to elect a chair pro tem. We can go ahead and elect me again if we want. I would accept the nomination.
I've motioned to have Dustin Kerb as our lead pro tem today.
Second, Lansdale.
Gotcha. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Next on that one, is there anybody here from the public who wishes to be recognized today? If you do, please raise your hand and we'll recognize you. All righty, seeing no hands going up, we'll move on beyond that one. So we're here to agenda item number 2, review and approve our agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second, Isabel.
All righty, any further discussion on today's agenda? Seeing no hands, all those in favor of approving the agenda as drafted, please say aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, that motion passes. Brings us to agenda item number 3 to review and approve the minutes from June 25th.
So moved, Lansdall.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second, Isabel.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the minutes as drafted here today? All those in favor of approving the minutes from June 25th, please say aye.
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 Is there any opposition? Hearing none, that motion passes. Minutes are approved. All right, moving on to agenda item number 4. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to make comments on items that are not on our agenda here today? If you have something you'd like to chat about, please raise your hand and we will recognize you for that. Seeing no hands going up in the audience, we will move on to agenda item number 5, which is to review the work received back by staff. Last meeting on Tuesday, we left off on IEBC chapter 4. We finished on we were in the middle of a discussion on section 401.4 right at the beginning of the chapter. And I let you guys know that I would come back with some rationale statements for the reason why that is drafted that way. So give me 2 seconds and I will update the share to be my screen and bring up some of those reason statements along with the code language there. So here is the code language on the left and getting into the reason statements. I'll bring up the proposal. That'll probably be the easiest one. Most of the reason statements in other documents read the same as the rationale in this proposal. So I'm not trying to do that. Okay, so for this one, the demolition and replacement, at our last meeting, we kind of are hung up on this word effectively here. And
Sorry, I was late.
no worries. Wait, thanks for joining
Hope
us.
you can hear me.
Yep. Let me update my attendance sheet real quick.
Can someone respond if they can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Hoyt. Can you hear us?
We can hear you, Hoyt.
Let me turn on my camera real quick.
Working.
Hoyt, we can hear you, but it doesn't sound like you can hear us.
I can't hear anybody right now.
Hmm. 1 second.
Try to log on a different computer.
Okay. We'll keep on going. We'll keep an eye out for Hoyt in the attendees list here, but I will mark him as present as well. Okay, so we still here? Okay, so we were hung up on this word effectively because it's not reasonably defined in our building code what effectively demolished means. It's my interpretation reading this one that effectively means like in all intents and purposes that due to damage the structure is demolished. And so here's the proposal where they add the language, and for this one the addition of 401.4 ensures that when a building has been effectively or for all intents and purposes been demolished, it must be replaced with a new building subject to the new code requirements. The IEBC allows the use of like materials for repairs, but these provisions should not apply where the building has been destroyed and the repair needed is a total replacement of the building. The same rules should apply whether the damage caused directly by the destructive event or if the demolition and subsequent replacement of the building is the owner's choice for the correcting damage. In both cases, owners would have to rebuild using currently adopted codes. So it's my opinion that the use of the word effectively is just a bad terminology in there. And maybe just removal of that word would clarify this section as far as intent goes.
Dustin,
And,
there's another section in there where it talks about where the intended method of repair. I think that's another concern that was brought up before. That's kind
Jesse,
of a
can you
vague
speak so I can see if I can hear
statement.
people?
Hoyt, I'm hearing you, but you
So you
can't
can
hear.
hear me, but I can't hear you guys.
Yes.
Go see if I can find another headphone. So
Yeah. So was it within section 401.4 where we were talking about that section?
Yes, yeah, where it says, or where the second clause, or where the intended method of repair. It's another kind of nebulous
Yes.
statement.
You know, I don't know how much we're supposed to work on fixing it, but my mind goes to elsewhere in the IEBC where it talks about, you know, if it's something's damaged beyond, I think it's 50% of the value or something to that effect. I don't even know if it's still in there, but you know, some marker to determine when it's beyond repair.
So for the sake of time and moving forward with this one today, I have hopes that we could finish the IEBC today and not necessarily need a meeting next Tuesday. So in the hopes of moving this one along, would it be prudent to just mark this one for more work during our review and potentially entertain a proposal? And I guess my thinking on that as a proposal, maybe just removing the word effectively and the word intended might clarify this, and we could talk about this a little bit more if you like here. So
I would think I'm in agreement with Tim. The scope of what we're trying to do here, reviewing the amendments, has the new code gotten it yay or nay, and so forth. I think the new code didn't get this. We can debate for hours whether we think it's a good amendment or bad amendment. We probably lean towards the bad, but that is a different discussion. So I think for the purpose of this meeting, we should just say, this is the amendment that should be maintained, and then go from there. And any of us have the option of submitting a code change proposal if we don't like the technical aspects of this.
Hey, Justin, can you talk? See if I can hear you.
yes, Hoyt, I'm hearing you, but I'm not hearing, or I guess it sounds like you're not hearing us. Give me 1 second. I was thinking, I don't think I have Hoyt's phone number to give him a shout real quick, but we'll continue moving on with this one. So down here in bold is what I'll put in our table for the master document is to keep the amendment. And as a comment, the industry may submit a proposal on the technical aspects of this one. All right, moving on through chapter 4. Let me put up one other thing. This is Trent Tinney did the review on this one, and he's not with us today.
I just joined in, Dustin. I'm here.
Oh, gotcha.
I still can't hear you, Dustin.
So, wait, I can hear you. Let me see if I can write a written message for him.
I'll hit a front line and then we'll take care of it.
Likely all he has to do is change his microphone under the tab.
Yeah. Let's see, big marker.
Testing 1, 2, 3. I can't hear you.
All right, let's see. Uh-oh, I'm gonna turn off my background to do this noise. Give me 1 second. Stop share. And all right, you get to see my storage room here. All right, Hoyt, we can hear you.
Hey, Joel. Another headphone.
All right, I'm gonna mute Hoyt.
Working okay. You just don't have it set up correctly.
There we go. I'm gonna put my background back on. Close that and then share the screen again. One. All right. Moving forward. So Trent, as I go through here, the blue sections, if you don't have a comment, or I guess looking at like 405 here, the comment is just for all the blue sections in there.
Yeah, there wasn't really anything significant added, just clarifying
Okay.
stuff. So
Gotcha. Moving forward, model code change, language change causes increase in cost of construction. They got this stupid thing in here. Come on, let me click it. Delete. There you go. Repair of electrical systems. 2021 model code explicitly allows for electrical systems to be repaired in like kind. New model code language procedure requires electrical system repairs to comply with NFPA 70, which does not have provisions for repair of existing electrical systems. So it looks like no recommended amendment for this section.
right.
Here in 4081, we have an existing amendment where we change it from International Plumbing Code to Uniform Plumbing Code, which is appropriate.
I think that's it for section or chapter 4.
Yeah,
You're
I can
right.
hear now, Dustin. Sorry about that. Took me a
You're
while.
all
Somebody
good.
had to help.
Wait, so we'll just finish the sound check. You can hear us. We can hear you. And
Sorry
I've got
about that.
No, you're all good. We've got you marked here as present on our attendance list, and we're all smooth and rolling here. So that's the end of chapter 4. Do we have any additional sections we want to go back and chat on, or are we in a position to move this section to our master document?
Everything did look like clarifying comments, so I would make a motion to move chapter 4 to the master documents.
Okay. It's Tim with the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second that.
I think Michael was the second on that one. Any further discussion on moving chapter 4 to our master document? Hearing no voices and seeing no hands. All those in favor of moving chapter 4 to our master document, please say aye.
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 Is there any in opposition? Hearing no opposition, that motion passes. And we are on to chapter 5, also done by Trent. Save that one. Close that. And here, chapter 5. And we don't have a spreadsheet to go with this one, so I'll just make this one up on the big screen. So moving through with chapter 5, have some blue stuff here. The new model code language added here in 502.1.1 risk category assignment may require an existing building to which an addition is being added to change occupancy and risk category. And to comply with the change of occupancy provisions in section 506, these could result in increased cost of construction with no recommended amendment to this section. Looking good. And catching up here. Recommendation, new model code language does not have any cost effect on construction for section 502. Looking good there. In section 503, we have some state amendments, so we'll go through those. We got 503.13 is the first one. Here we are, voluntary lateral force resisting system alterations. Recommended, the WAC amendment exempts voluntary lateral force resisting system alterations from complying from IBC section 1609, which is the wind section, and section 1613 seismic section, instead of the model code language, which exempts compliance from section 503. The listed requirements 1 through 4 are generally the same for both. It appears that the model code allows a voluntary alteration to enjoy more exemptions from requirements than does the WAC amendment. In other words, a voluntary lateral force resisting system alteration must meet a greater number of requirements under the WAC amendment compared to the model code language. Therefore, this change could have increased costs for construction. Looks like the recommendation is to maintain the existing amendment, but also incorporate the model code language.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for the drawn out explanations here.
I honestly like them. They give me some verbiage to go on instead of just running through it real quick.
Okay.
Okay, and so for incorporation of the model language changes, we would need to do a proposal on that as well. Moving through the next state amendments, 503.19. We got our here. Seismic requirements. Is all of this additive to this section, these last couple sections?
I believe it is, yeah.
Okay, so
And then renumbered at the bottom, I think.
gotcha. Ken, you have your hand up?
Yeah, they reference for locking arrangements and educational occupancies. The reference 1010.28 is incorrect. It should be 1010.27. I don't know if that's going to be caught in an errata or not.
Okay. It should be 1010.27.
Yeah.
All right, we'll make sure to capture that one there. All right, so as far as 503.19 through 503.19.4 is the recommendation just to maintain these existing amendments?
Yeah, just keep them in there.
Okay.
But isn't the we're looking at the 24, right?
Yes, sir.
So the number like 503.19.4 and the I see what you're doing. You're adding a lot more under 19.
Mhm.
No, I mean on the state amendments is because you look at the IEBC 2024 is lock-in arrangements for education facility.
Right. So what Trent did here was just insert these in the same location they were in the 2021 code and moved the new or these sections here down. I'd have
Yeah,
to.
but the problem with that, then do you go, this is where the issue comes up, working on the Code and Correlation Committee. You have to go through all the international existing building code, and any place that it references 503.20, right? You have to also modify that. So I mean, as long as someone does that, you see what I'm saying? Because they added 503.19 that's in the model code, and they also have a 503.20, which is also two-way communication systems. Now you have to go back and you have to go look and make sure all the references are correct. Even the other places throughout the international existing building code references the right section, or if you don't, you have a conflict.
So
So
looking at,
you could change the WAC amendment to be 503, what, 21?
21, yeah. That's what
Yeah.
I would recommend, because unless someone's already done that, usually that's what I usually do. I go through and see if it's been referenced somewhere else. But the other thing, since we don't control ICC when they make changes to the code book, in an errata, it could come back and also change it too. So I always have had a hard time actually using the I code references with our state amendments, because of that reason. Because we'll have conflicts maybe in they have printing 1, 2, 3, 4. We're dealing right now with just or I only have the first printing. I don't know about other people. So
I mean, I would throw out there for this, I totally agree, and I don't think it's a bad thing to switch it. But this is chapter 5, which is prescriptive, right? So there shouldn't be any references back to here for, our change of occupancy or level 1, 2, and 3 remodels and all that. So in this specific case, we're probably okay. But I think as a general, if we can add it to a code section, I agree with everyone.
right.
yeah,
Probably.
I like to be consistent with that. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying, throughout. And I think you're right, Tim. I agree with you too. I don't usually, most people don't do the prescriptive as much than I'm used to. I'm used to the other ones, but I personally think we should, because that means every single time when the code changes, on the 2027 that comes up, we got to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's much easier to have it not match the I code numbering in the future too.
And in the 2021 code, the section 503.19 does fall after two-way communication systems. So as part of the recommendation, we can put it in here after that. And we'll just move it around in the drafting for the master document. And we have the recommendation in here as well.
And
That
that's
sounds
up
good.
to other people too. Don't just go, that's just my experience on this for so long. So
Gotcha. Well, I like it. It sounds like Trent likes it and Hoyt likes it. If anybody else doesn't like it, now's the time to speak, or forever hold your peace. All right, moving through our next state amendment is in section 506.1.1. Just updating the uniform plumbing code. Looks like the recommendation is to maintain that one. And then
Yep.
that's the last state amendment in this section. New model code language for section 506.5.3 may require some buildings whose change of occupancy results in risk category 4, seismic design category D or F, to have additional requirements for non-structural components. May have an increased cost, but no call out for an amendment needed here. And that brings us to the end of chapter 5, or almost did.
I thought
Go ahead.
507, I thought in our 507 we had a lot of I thought we had a lot of wax on historical buildings. What I
There may
remember.
be something in a different part of the code, but as far as 507 of the IEBC, we don't have any wax at all.
Oh, okay, because in 507 I thought it had to be on the registry or so. I thought there was something in the code that to be a historical building, it had to be registered. I thought that used to be in the code. Maybe they've taken it out, but
I don't have any reserved sections for 507 either. I'm not sure. I'd have to go do some research on that section.
no,
There,
that's
there is a different chapter for historic buildings, and I think it does define what Hoyt's talking about there, but
Okay.
we'll see when we get there, I suppose.
okay. Thanks, Tim. Thank you.
Okay. Any more that we want to go back and review on chapter 5?
If the group doesn't mind, there was that one provision that Trent identified would be an increase in cost, and it was if the risk category is different for an addition, it was back towards the beginning. We kind of sailed through, and I just never really quite wrapped my head around what the change was there.
Not this one.
But on that, sometimes what happens, I can tell you that, Tim, and it's happened on projects that I've had, even now they have that, they get a higher occupancy in there where it used to fall under a different risk category. And then all of a sudden, based on the number of occupants, it kicks it into the higher risk category or some of the things. So sometimes in addition, with different occupancies can kick the building into a higher risk category. But that's pretty common that people know. I thought it was actually already in there for additions that if you added onto assembly space, you still had to meet all the life safety issues. And if that meant risk category, then you're in a higher risk category. So
Trent, just in your review of this, so if I'm understanding it correctly, you do an addition that's a higher risk category, then you have to upgrade the building that it's attached to as well. Is that what I was getting from this?
I think so. I apologize. I mean, I don't remember it as clearly as when I was reviewing it. I had to read through it again, but I think you're right.
Okay. I mean, it's standard code language. I'm not proposing that we recommend an amendment at all. It was just felt like that was a little interesting. So, thank you for going back and reviewing that, but everything else I was on board with.
Okay. So then we're in a position to approve chapter 5 of the IEBC to our master document.
I make a motion to add this to the master document.
All right,
Second, this is Josh.
Josh, thank you. All those in favor of moving chapter 5 of the IEBC to our master document, please say aye.
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 All righty. Any in opposition? Hearing none, that motion passes. And brings us to chapter 6. And looks like Leah is the reviewer for chapter 6.
Yes.
Save that. And all right. Come on, work. There's that. Close that down. All right. For existing amendments in chapter 6, there's not a whole lot. We have something in 603 and 604. And as far as significant changes go, we have none identified. So we will begin getting that there. Zooming these out just a little bit more. Oh, sorry. Okay. So, First Amendment 603.1, showing the scope. Looks like the recommendation is to keep the amendment. Put that one there. Then we have the
But I thought the amendment that we had the way it was. I thought what I remember is it kind of met that. If you look at what you crossed out, I thought when we went to the national level, we moved our state stuff in there. You know, that 50% right there, it just says below the threshold of level 3, and level 3 is the 50%. Are you saying keep our state amendments? I mean, why? Because what it says in level 3, the level alteration applies to work exceeding 50%. So it says exceeding. The actual IBC actually says exactly that now, the IEBC. It says that.
That is a very good question. So in the 2021 existing building code, the IEBC already says 50% of the building area, and that at that version, our state amendment is to change the language to below the threshold of a level 3. So I thought there must be reasoning why the state amendment was kept that way.
And looking at what they have on the chapter we received from ICC, there's no new language in here indicating a change from the 21 to the 24. So if we need to work this one a little bit more, all right, I guess Hoyt, your position is that the language is essentially the same with as far as regulatory effect, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you look at the definition of level 2 and level 3, I think you get the exact same. You come to the exact same, because if you read in 603 for level 2, it says work equal to or less than 50% of the building area. And so that's when you're in level 2. And then if you're not in that, then you got the level 3 where it says level 3 applies when the work area exceeds 50% of the building area. And I'm trying to figure out.
I think it all comes down to this. There's this threshold we added in number 1 of 604.1 that says substantial improvement or substantial damage. So then, therefore, if you know, even though you weren't 50%, if you met the definition of substantial damage building, then you still had to comply as a level 3. And so they're capturing that also by just saying below a level 3 and the level 2. But it all comes down to that number 1 in 604.1. That's the best I could tell.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. But it says when the work meets or exceeds the threshold of either substantial improvement or substantial zone, or. Okay, so the work meets or exceed. It's weird. Maybe I'm wrong if someone else has some input on that, but my understanding in the existing building code, it says the same thing. But is Mike on? Mike's pretty good on this, Mike Barth. Is he on the line or is he here today?
He
I am, but I apologize. I was in this little side conversation and was not paying attention for a few minutes.
Okay. Well, what you see on the screen, I think I think the I codes already say that, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, if you keep it, you're not doing anything, but it seems like added work when it's not necessary, but. I mean, what do other people think? I mean, does it say, do you agree that it says the same?
So I'll just circle back to like the definition of substantial improvement talks about if it exceeds the cash value of over half of what the building's valued. Well, maybe that's not half of the area. So they kind of added this in there to say, no, this is a level 3 too. And so, in that context, it could be a level 2 because it's under 50% of the area, but the value exceeds what's appropriate for a substantial improvement. So therefore it becomes a level 3. So if you don't make these changes, the change that they added of adding section or number 1 to the level 3 alteration would be mute.
I agree with that.
As do I.
But
we
the one
didn't
I
have
thing
agree
this
is
with
one.
Tim.
the valuation. I don't know how you guys did, but the city of Tacoma, we got to take what they give us unless we have a way of arguing it. Um, that's what I'm saying. At one time, we used to actually have in chapter 1 of the codes how you could actually physically calculate the valuation and stuff. But I think that's where it came from before. But right now, they could. I think this is okay. That's fine. I guess I'm in the minority on this one, but if you want to
It's
keep it.
certainly subtle, Hoy. I agree with you with that. I mean, it's kind of like saying, okay, we have a building, we're going to put solid gold toilets in this room. We need to upgrade the whole thing for IBC per
Exactly.
IEBC per alteration level 3. But I could maybe see a scenario with a major TI improvement to move in a new office building, and they do all this non-structural work, and their work area is confined to some portion of the building that's their suite, but they're kind of almost branding this building as new. That's really say like an older Seattle building. So I see some point in it, but I agree with you that it's probably going to be few and far between, but I don't think it hurts much. It just kind of gives you guys a little power to push back if you see something that's clearly stretching the limits of the code, like I'm sure you see sometimes.
Right, but item 2 actually is what the building code already says. So that's the thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. The
Yeah.
item 2 is definitely in the building code.
Yeah. So it was number 1, then I was like, okay.
Yeah, I agree. It's subtle.
And this, Mike, again, I apologize for missing kind of the early parts of that question, but the amendment is just adding the substantial improvement and substantial damage language simply because we have all of that pretty well defined. As for valuation, the code pretty much valuation is quote as decided by the building official. So, we all by different policies have, different ways of establishing valuation, but ultimately it becomes the building official responsibility to, whether it's challenged or not. But either way, having that substantial improvement or substantial damage language is, in my opinion, clarifying, and it is helpful.
This is Leah. I agree. And then there's also a definition for substantial damage and substantial improvement, which talks about the market value. So it looks like if the market value exceeds 50%, or if the area exceeds 50%, that'd be level 3. And because the level 3 is defined that way, so level 2, the state amendment just changed to language to below the threshold of level 3 alteration.
I guess I'm in the minority on that one then, because it's pretty hard to argue. Being in in arguments before, because valuation, they can say this is how much it's going to cost, and they could fall under there. So
they can make the argument, but ultimately the building official is the one.
No, actually, it goes to building official isn't. It actually goes to in our ones. It goes to a committee that gets to decide. Building official doesn't get to make that decision.
Is that an appeals committee?
Yeah, it's an appeals committee. In the beginning, you can make that decision, absolutely, but when they appeal it.
Yeah, well, true.
So,
any building official decision is appealable, but
that's what I'm saying is, I think the way the code is written right now, me personally, I don't think we should be putting. I don't agree with our the state amendment, but that'd have to be you said I have to do a code proposal. I think the code already says that. Basically, it's clear enough, and you get to the same result. I think this is just a carryover because they carried it over. I do at one time, this wasn't in there, but I do think they've clarified it. And so but I'm in the minority. So
I think part of the rationale behind it, I believe, is because you can have like, say I'm going to put new flooring throughout the whole building. But then I'm going to build a bathroom over here in this corner. You're touching more than 50% of the building area with that remodel. But is it really a substantial improvement? You're adding a bathroom, so you're adding a $20,000 bathroom and maybe $20,000 worth of floor on a $500,000 building. That's, I think, what
but the
what
code
trying to
doesn't say
do is
or.
give that.
No,
give
Mike,
that
it
allowance.
doesn't say or. So it says 1 or 2. So you would still have to do it because you meant 2.
Yeah, technically that's correct.
Yeah, so it's not if it was or, okay,
Yeah.
I could buy that.
Oh, actually, it does read or.
No, it doesn't.
Let's see, where one of the criteria is exceeded, one, work shall meet yada yada, or substantial damage, or 2, the alteration area exceeds 50%. So the or is in there.
Okay. I just don't think that I still don't agree with that change, but that's okay. I don't agree with our state amendment, but
Yeah.
I can't let my personal opinions go in there. If they want to, if you want to keep it, I don't see any rationale why we keep it. So.
Well, it gets back to our scope of this tag isn't right now to discuss and argue the merits of our current amendments. It's to say, does the new code take care of it or not? Yes or no? And if we don't like the amendments, which there's a lot in here that that I would probably argue against, but that's not what we're trying to do here at this current point.
Gotcha. All right. So with that in mind, this amendment isn't taken care of by model code language in either 6031 or 604.1. We have the recommendation to keep the amendment. We can add a comment there to let industry provide proposal if one's deemed needed. Does it sound like a movement forward?
I'm in minority on that. I don't think so. I don't think it should be. So I'm still not convinced. So.
Okay.
So I'm one dissent, I guess, would be a vote.
Moving to this next section 607, historic buildings. It is indicated as reserved in our WAC, but that doesn't mean that we don't adopt this section. It just means we're reserving any future state amendments in our WAC for this one. So I'm going to change this back to just black text and not struck out on that.
Thank you, Dustin. I was looking at our amendments going, I don't understand where this got deleted.
Yeah.
No, it's not deleted. I just think it's misinterpretation there. Okay. So if we're going through our WACs and it was actually a not adopted section, the WAC would say section 607 not adopted.
Yeah, you should delete reserve too. See where it says historical reserve over the top.
Yeah. There you go. And this one might be the historic building shall apply to buildings classified as historic as defined in chapter 2. Is that kind of what we were talking about earlier, Hoyt?
Yeah, our state has that we talked about earlier. Yeah, about historic. I'm sorry. Since I had problems with the internet, my mind wasn't. I just got to read historical again. I thought we had something historical building. Yep, I think that's fine. Yeah. So it is defined in chapter 2 very clearly.
So that brings us to the end of chapter 6 and puts us in a position to entertain a motion on approving chapter 6 to our master document.
I'll make a motion to move chapter 6 to our master document.
Do we have a second?
Second, this is Josh.
Thank you. All those in favor of moving chapter 6 to our master document, please say aye.
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 Any opposition?
Aye, wait, because I still don't agree with that.
Okay.
That change, so.
It's okay,
Okay.
Hoyt. It's nice to see we're not just a robot organization here.
Yeah.
All right, so closing that out. Closing that out. Moving to chapter 7, which was also done by Leah. All right, in chapter 7, we have amendment in 7027 and a couple more further down in there. We'll just start scrolling. And as far as significant changes, there's a few in here identified. Verification in section 702. 702.7 with the recommendation to keep the existing amendment. Just changes the reference code names. Rest we got identified as significant changes. That 702.5 in here is a significant. Okay.
So the 702.5, the blue language, it says it's new language in 2024, but this language is actually already in the 2021 International Existing Building Code. So I just mentioned that for the 702.5.
Okay. And 702 or no 705.1. This comes later.
705.1, it basically aligns with the 2024 IBC new code section. It's 1608.3, it's ponding instability, and also 1611.2, ponding instability.
Okay.
Seven oh 5.2, there are some new language added for roof replacement. Clarify roof replacement requirements when existing self-adhered underlayment is already involved. Just clarify.
Gotcha.
706, it's also there's also some changes there. It basically it's just a simplification and a clarification of intent, and this language align with the language in the 2024 IEBC 304.3.2. So because it changed in the chapter 3, so they also changed it to chapter 6, 706.
Gotcha. We missed one amendment here in 7081. It's just pretty much pointing on back to the Washington State Energy Code. I'm gonna put it in there real quick.
I noticed the next line's got International Energy Conservation Code in there.
Yeah, all of this is removed by our state amendment.
Oh, okay.
So, oh, there's a little bit more in there, but it's it is.
Did you want to remove the IRC reference though?
So this is what the state amendment is right
Okay.
now.
I think just because we're special in Washington, we don't use I think it's Appendix N or Chapter N. It's like Chapter 11 in the IRC that's basically pulls the energy code references from the International Energy Code so that the home builder could still theoretically build from one book. So,
Yeah.
so we're good to take it out too.
Okay.
All right, and let me just add this to here. 50 dash 480 6.
This may be a stupid question, but is 5111 WAC, that Washington State Energy Code, deal with residential and commercial? Is that
Well,
correct?
5111 C and 5111 are two separate
Okay, that's what I
ones.
thought. Yeah, okay. So we could just keep it as what it is and you get both of them. Okay. That's all I wanted to be sure.
All right, so 7081 is in there. We're keeping the amendment, and that brings us to the end of chapter 7 for the IEBC. Any sections we want to go back and talk about some more? If not, we're in a position to entertain the motion to move chapter 7 to our master document.
I make a motion to move chapter 7 to our master document.
Second.
Was that Tim?
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor of moving chapter 7 to our master document, please say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Any objection? All right, that motion passes and clears us to go to chapter 8. Which was also done by Leah. All right, we have 805 in here. Let me zoom this out a little bit. All right, so our first amendment's 805.4. We have a few more in here than we have on this spreadsheet, but that's okay. We can get them in there while we're working it today. And then 803.2 will stay there for now.
So for the
803.
significant change, 803.2, automatic sprinkler system, the new proposed language makes it a little bit clear that the existing sufficient water supply is to exist and be available to the floor where the work area is located without the installation of new supply piping, fire pump, or rising piping.
So on this one, I'm not seeing any blue text in there. Just scroll through a plain document, 803.2.
There is an 803.2.2.
Is this where this changes, Leah?
Yes,
Okay,
sorry about that.
that's all right. All right, so that one's looking good. 803.4.3 is the next change that we have in here.
Yeah, that is the next change, but I didn't identify cost increase. So this proposal is based on clarifying the requirements for a fire alarm and detection system in a level 2 alteration.
Okay. And this is for the whole of section 804.
Yeah, just to let you know, that will add cost, that 805.3. There will be a cost increase on that. The 803.4.3. Yeah.
Okay. Table 804.
So when I
ahead,
read the 803.4.3, basically what I read is if a fire alarm system is required to be installed, then it needs to be installed per provision of 907 and NFPA 72. So my thoughts were because the fire alarm and detection systems already need to be installed to install per some of the codes. I don't think they will increase cost, but what are your thoughts or reasonings, Oi?
Because you have to sprinkle the whole building.
This appears to be in just in regards to alarms and if they were
Or the
required
alarm,
by a
yeah.
different section.
Right. I'm sorry, not the alarm things. You would have to do the whole building. So when you're in the existing building code, you're only on part of it. You have to install the alarm system for the whole building. Or that's how I interpret that. It doesn't say just for the section that you're doing the work in. Because if you go to the building code for the NFPA 72, it's the whole building for the alarm. So this basically tells you, you now have to, when a fire alarm system is required, and you're just doing a small portion to it, you have to install the fire alarm system for the whole building, not just the area that you're doing it in. So, well, that's how I read it. That's how I read it, and I remember that also being discussed. People that does add cost to the building. What is the doesn't the what is it? You have the substantial changes book or something that talks about that or something too. Dustin, didn't you?
No, we don't have that publication available to us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they but that's the thing. That's why it'll increase the cost. I don't think the amendment's necessary, but I wouldn't say it does not increase the cost. So
Okay.
Most of the 803.4 subsections that that call for the alarm systems pretty much all say when installed or shall be installed in work areas. So there is a limit in for when this particular section is applicable. It doesn't require the entire building. I mean, other areas may, but for this particular section, it does limit it to shall be installed in work areas.
All right. Moving on to section 804. Looks like there's some work done in the table that's a little more significant, Leah.
Yes. So this table added occupiable roofs to the single exit tables to clarify what's required for an occupiable roof. And also the current requirements in table 804.4.11 is less than what is permitted for new construction for travel distance, and could be read not to not allow for single exit from a third floor. The current requirements for B and F2 are also less than permitted for new construction. And the change is to reflect it so it aligns with the new construction a little bit more.
Gotcha. As far as this one goes, as far as cost, is this reduced cost for users?
I don't know. I wanted to say no, just because new construction requires that. But what do everybody think?
Well, the big thing is occupied roofs was new added to the code. And so this just clarified it to how to treat it, because people have always argued occupied roofs are not floors, or or story. And so this just clarifies that, yeah, you do. I think we've already been doing this anyway. So increasing the costs, I unless you interpreted it, I think the code incorrectly when you had an occupied roof, and didn't treat it as that way. So I would say no. It's kind of what because occupied roofs was added to the code, they had to update this too.
So Dustin, on yes, no for cost, you mentioned decrease. I think if it did do anything, because like what Hoyt just said, it would decrease the cost. But that would be a very rare scenario where maybe you had between 35 and 49 on a B or F2 second story.
Yeah. Okay.
But it definitely didn't increase.
Yeah, so it just kind of made it so people, exactly what Tim's saying, is to get us all on the same page rather than everyone making different decisions for occupied roofs.
Gotcha. Looks like the rest of 804 has just got a bunch of renumbering with some minor changes in there. Well, there's some new sections, stairways and escalators. And a new exception at 804 14.2. All these just kind of editorial clarifications, Leah.
I think so. I don't think they add significant changes.
Okay. So in section 805, contains our state amendments and the next significant change, 805.3.
So 805.3 is this proposal basically ensures that the wind and seismic upgrades are not triggered too easily for buildings that should not need them because they have already been retrofitted.
Got it. And then that brings us to our
Just to let you know, you end up getting kicked over to the ASC 41 that deals with the lateral force resistance, and it does that in the IBC. Just letting people know, and so it really doesn't do anything. So, she's right. Leah's correct on that. So,
okay.
But remember, the ASC 41 does have changes, and when you get to ASC 7, you go to the table. You get to ASC 41. There are some changes, but that's a different story.
Okay. So our first state amendment in this chapter is 805.4 for voluntary lateral force resisting system alterations, with the recommendation to keep the amendment.
It looks like there's no conflict between the new language in 2024 IEBC, so I recommend keep the existing amendments.
Okay. Our next amendment is 805.5. And I guess you have, for this one, you have 805 and all of its subsections is what this line's for?
That's correct.
Okay. So for these 5 sections here, the recommendation is to maintain the amendment. Separate these out a little bit. That's just my note to myself to come back and put those sections in.
Can I ask a question real quick? In the
Yes.
code, just real quick, there's the electrical stuff that has in there and all the codes in the IEBC. But we don't use the international electrical code or whatever. We use NFPA, and I don't know the electrical code. I don't know if someone else does, but that's section 806. I was just curious if anyone just looked at that.
Well, as my understanding, the commercial electrical code is the NFPA 70. And then they have the electrical portions within the IRC. So if you're testing out on it and in the ICC stuff, it's the IRC book for the E1, then it's the NEC book for the E2 and 3 license or certificates, I should say.
I didn't think the IRC electrical code was adopted. I don't work in the IRC. Does
Oh,
anyone else know?
it's not. I'm just saying if you're
Oh,
getting
okay.
the licensing through the ICC, there is no like national electrical code published by ICC. It's an NFPA document that they
Okay.
go to.
That's what I just wanted to be sure. Since our state does the electrical, or Tacoma Power here. But
Yeah. All right, our last amendment and the last little bit of this section is in 809.1, where they just say that the level 2 alterations shall comply with the Washington State Energy Code. They have the 511C in this one instead of just the generic 511 that we looked at in an earlier section. So that might leave some confusion there because I would assume that not all level 2 alterations are always commercial application.
That's correct, Dustin.
yeah, it could be R.
So on 809.1, let me put that one in here, 51.
I mean, isn't that editorial, not technical? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this one's in here as only referencing the commercial energy code. I think sticklers for what the code says and what the intent of the code are, they might have an incorrect application of this section.
I mean, you'll be able to look back at the history and see why that was done. I thought you had to do when you were at level 2, you had to do the energy code, but that's because I'm in commercial all the time.
Yeah.
And that's in the R's too, when you have multi-story building over, because you're in the IBC for the residential part. So here's the thing, just to let you know, they have R3s still in the IBC. So if someone technically decided to do, I'm going to just use that and not use the IRC, the prescriptive method, do you now make them meet the commercial energy code? I don't know. I don't know the answer. Tim, do you know the answer on that one, or Mike? I mean,
No, I think it'd be a good change if we took out the C part, because the residential energy code or the 5111R also covers multifamily projects that are whatever under 4 stories and everything else. So
right, that's, but does that have, Dustin, you could correct it. Does that have to come as a code change? Or is that just editorial?
I think that this one would have to come in as a code change because that would change a regulatory effect of what this stuff says. So I can run this one particular by our attorney and see if they have a different opinion on that one. But the way I'm reading it is if this points you only to the commercial energy code, then you can't go to 5111R. when doing a level 2 alteration. I'm sure that's not how it's being enforced across Washington, but I feel like that's what this says.
Just a quick question. So the 2021 Washington State Residential Code already has a chapter 45 talks about existing buildings and structures. Does that mean the residential projects, we don't need to go through the IEBC to get the code requirements? If that is the case, then IEBC might just be the energy code portion might just be serving the commercial instead of the residential. I don't know if I'm making sense.
I think you totally are, Leah. I would just add in that, it's always a debate whether or not you use the IEBC for residential buildings like IRC buildings. Some people say yes, some people say no. Don't think it's ever been decided. I never do. So I'm totally on board with you. But the scope of the Washington State Energy Code for residential isn't just IRC buildings. It's also IBC buildings that meet certain qualifiers that are just residential structures, like say a small fourplex or something like that.
Or an
Right,
R2.
and the other thing is on top of that, if you have a podium building with R built on top, you're not in the IRC, you're in the IBC. And that's all residential. So just FYI, you can't do an IRC building on top of a podium building, which is posted to concrete. So usually they're 4 stories anyway, but just an FYI.
Yeah, all of that's correct. And because there are applications of short multifamily buildings where the 5111R energy code applies, even though the IRC does not. Yeah, Dustin, if you're gonna look at a code change for this, I would say both areas where we've run into it should be addressed. Either, so they should either both read 5111 and no letter, or they should both read 5111R and 5111C as applicable.
I think that that's probably the most appropriate way to do it, since we don't actually have a 5111. We have a 5111C and a 5111R.
Correct.
I am in favor of changing the language to reference the 2 separate WACs and not trying to include both of them with a vague reference to 5111.
Agreed.
Just because I can't help but say it, it really doesn't even matter that this whole section 809 is in here or not. It's just a pointer. So the fact this wouldn't change the regulatory requirements like you mentioned earlier, Dustin, because this is just a pointer. The Washington State Energy Code for existing structures has a chapter 5 and it's applicable. Whether or not this references it or not, it just helps people when they're in this code to know to go to that code. That's all it does.
Yeah, Tim's right on that. I mean, I've never had a issue with it either. So
fully agreed.
And I would say that the section for minimum requirements that we had, was it earlier in this chapter or was it in a different chapter?
It was a different chapter.
Okay. I'd like to put this same kind of comment in there as well, since it's kind of been.
I think it was in 708.1.
You are correct.
It's the same type of pointer. It's just worded different.
Okay.
But they should be consistent. Well, I assume they should be consistent.
But I'm hoping that saves us an amendment because, again, regulatory authority wise, it's still applicable. Doesn't matter if this code says what it says here because it's already in the energy code.
I mean, it could be just the parentheses text could be taken out of there and it would still be, it would work, I think, at that point as well, too.
I agree.
Just say energy code.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you got this reference throughout the IEBC. You got chapter 11 has energy conservation stuff. They have energy spread out, so just make sure you catch all of it. So
Yep. So as we go through, we'll just keep this conversation in mind as we are referencing the energy code WAC. All right. So that's the end of chapter 8. Any further discussion on chapter 8? All right, we are in a position to entertain a motion to move chapter 8 to our master document.
So moved. This is Tim.
second. Hoyt.
All righty. All those in favor of moving chapter 8 to our master document, please say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposition?
Aye. Sorry, I missed the mute button there. Aye.
All right. Is there any in opposition of this one? All right, hearing none, that motion passes and brings us to chapter 9.
So chapter 9 only has one existing state amendment in 907.1. It's the same energy conservation language.
Okay.
Made that easy.
And as for significant changes, I've identified a couple of them that can increase costs. I don't know if it's because it's a level 3 renovation.
Yeah, level 3 is always going to increase costs. Just FYI, when you get to a level 3 alteration, almost all the changes are going to increase costs in my experience.
And the first one I've identified is 902.2. It's for I occupancy. What I read is prior to changes to the 2015 I codes, some of the I occupancies, they don't have conditions separated to condition 1 or condition 2. So IEBC kind of made some of the changes because of that reason. So the 902.2 is specify where an existing group I1 will need to subdivide into smoke compartments, similar to the IBC section 420.6.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That's specifically what it says in what I remember in looking at it. It's already in the IBC, right? I mean, it's basically what it says in the IBC. Right.
It's in the IBC, and then they're incorporating this because of the condition 1, condition 2, incorporating this new language into the 2024 IEBC.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Is that same for the 902.3 as well?
Yes, it is the same for it. Yeah, 902.3 just address the ambulatory care facilities, but for the same sort of reasoning.
Okay.
I'm not sure it actually increases cost for the basis of the analysis, because these are things that are required under IBC anyway, and typically with a level 3 alteration, you would have been pointed there regardless. So it seems to me like it's more of a clarification, just to avoid conflict and to point out that those things do need to be done, as opposed to it actually changing the cost of a particular project.
Yeah, I think Mike's correct, because I've also had ambulatory that I've had to deal with. I already got to this anyway, so I think Mike's right on that. So it's not
Okay.
increasing the cost, it was already required anyway.
So out of curiosity, if you exceeded 50% of your work area and your existing ambulatory and this section wasn't in there, you wouldn't have had to go back and separate it into different suites with the smoke barrier. So
That's what I
th-
read.
I feel like
Yes.
it absolutely at least could increase costs, because we didn't have ambulatory care in the codes at all until, what was that, 2009 that came in?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, I think you're also right on that one.
I agree with you, Tim, on that as well.
So do we want to indicate that it has costs or no?
Just on mine, I don't know about the cost, but I already required it on ones that have come in for us. So that's why costs, I thought it was already required. So
I
Seems
read
pretty-
some, oh, sorry. I was going to say, I read some background information from ICC, their code proposal, and both of them, they've indicated the change proposal will increase the cost of construction.
And
So
I-
we're requiring something to be added. I can't see how it would not increase cost. It might be definitely a good feature, but if it's an added feature that normally wouldn't be there without this provision, then I have to agree with what Tim said.
yeah, I think I agreed also with Tim. I guess it would add costs, but I think you already got there anyway. But so
Yeah,
yes.
and I can understand there are probably some circumstances where that really would be true. So I certainly I would agree that there could be added cost. I think in general it probably isn't, but there is potential. So I would agree with that.
So for supervision and alarms, we have a new section here.
Yes, and the proposal reasoning was some of the AHJs, they will find where sprinkler systems were not supervised electronically. And this section would clarify on those level 3 alterations, the system would need to be electronically supervised. So I think that would increase the cost of construction from doesn't need to need to.
Gotcha. Moving on, the next line here is for the entirety of 906, and looks like there's no call for an amendment here. Is the new language just clarification? Do you think it adds cost or anything, Leah?
I think it does add costs because this proposal basically it's about the essential non-structural systems and components in existing risk category 4 buildings. The current code, even in the rare cases where it triggers seismic upgrade, does not even require bracing of the existing non-structural components. But this new 2024 IEBC does require that for a category 4 buildings. So basic category 4 buildings are, for example, like I2 condition 2 ambulatory or emergency ambulatory care facilities with emergency surgery. And some of the people, they just can't move. So the non-structural systems, it's very important to have them to be safe to protect the fire life safety.
Yeah, California put that in their code change proposal, what I remember, and absolutely it will add costs. But I'm hoping we don't say we need an amendment to it.
No, I think it's the right thing to do. So, yeah.
9071 is the only amendment here, and we've already talked about the reference to 5111C only. And we'll, I guess, work on that a little bit more. That was entered in on the other spreadsheet. For section 908, it's an entirely new section.
So this new section, it does not require a new installation. It just adds requirements for the building undergoing evaluation of the public communication system coverage, just to ensure that the building still complies with the IFC section 510.
Yeah, just to add on that, we have this on here. Usually affects high-rise buildings, but basically what this is communication by the fire department. When they're in the building, they're able to communicate with emergency systems. It would add costs because this also happens in new buildings. You do it after the building, and you got to make the assumption if they don't have fire department communications, you got to put an enhancement system in. But this is the one thing that's in the code that you don't know you're going to have it until you actually, the building has been built, even in new construction. But the in some of the existing buildings, it may be where the fire department finds out they do not have emergency coverage, and then you got to put in that enhancement system in there to make sure you have the proper signal strength. I don't think we should do an amendment to this. It does increase cost. It would definitely increase cost, but it's a life safety thing, and I don't believe we should amend it. But it is something it really affects more high-rise buildings. So just FYI.
Gotcha. Hey, Ken, I saw your hand up there. It went down. Did we cover what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I was just agreeing with Hoyt, but we still need to, when you're done with this, we have to go back to 904 for a section that's in conflict.
Okay. So as far as this one, cost increase, yes, but no amendment. And no, and then Ken, which section in 904 did you want to run back to?
So 904.1.3. So this is, and Hoyt, I think we're both on that correlation committee for ICC. This is 904.1.3 when it talks about upholstered furniture mattresses. It's not something that's new. The problem is in the 24 IFC and IBC, it reads differently for upholstered furniture and mattresses. It now says an automatic sprinkler system shall be provided throughout a group M fire area where the area used for the display and sale of upholstered furniture or mattresses exceeds 5,000 square feet. And that's the same for the F1 and the S1. So this was not correlated, obviously, with ICC, and this would make it, and they put the change in to make it less restrictive. If we leave this in there, it makes it more restrictive, and that was not the intent when the 24 code changes went through in the fire code and the building code. So again, this could maybe be something that a note to the ICC, but if they don't clean it up in the next printings, then I think that your tag needs to be looking at making a proposed change to this to match up with the language that's in the IBC and IFC 2024.
That's correct.
And since this is published, they didn't clean it up, so we need to make the change. Sounds to me.
Yeah, it'll come out of one of their erratas, I bet.
Okay. So I got this one, even though it's not a significant change, I'll include it in this report. That correlations needed with the IFC. So Ken, just so I have that complete, the IFC change in the related section makes it less restrictive and would reduce cost on the overall, whereas they just haven't moved it here in this book and needs to be updated as well. Is there a section in IBC that needs to be looked at as well?
Nope. No, the IBC and IFC are the same language. So it's the IBC and IFC. So that's what they're referencing, the IBC. It's the same language there.
But yes, Dustin, what he was describing will reduce costs. So
no, if we don't make the change, it will increase costs because there'll be any M occupancy 5,000 square feet. Yeah, so we have to make the change, otherwise people are gonna be required to put sprinklers in when they don't need to.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I
exactly.
understand it. Is it true that if in the errata, it won't pick up any Washington State modifications? Someone mentioned that before.
Yeah, that's correct. That you get one shot at it. So we want to make sure we get it right. They're not, when they do a Washington State building code and they have the errata, there's erratas that the I codes in, they don't go do the erratas to the Washington State. We're trying to fix that, but we've had pushback on that. So,
Gotcha. Thanks.
so if you buy the Washington State one, which I hope everyone does, because that makes ICC work with us better. Hopefully the erratas will be incorporated in the Washington State too when they do the erratas too. But the problem is they don't want, they're afraid that the errata may change something in Washington State without someone from Washington State going through and checking it. That's why they don't do the errata to the Washington State. So
Thanks.
Got it. All right. Is there any other sections we need to go back and touch on?
yeah, so Dustin, just want to make a recommendation. That's what you should be doing.
Gotcha. So if there's no other sections we want to talk about in chapter 9, we're in a position to entertain a motion to move chapter 9 to our master document.
I'll make the motion. I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay.
With the correlation thing, right? The where you have in yellow, just to make sure.
Yeah. Who was the motion maker? I saw two people, but I didn't
Oh,
write
I'm
it.
sorry.
Steve?
It doesn't matter. I'm Steve Belzak.
It doesn't really matter, but we're trying to make sure we got an accurate record here. So with that, all in favor of moving chapter 9 to our master document, please say aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, that motion passes and brings us to chapter 10. Oops. All right, significant changes. There's a couple in here. And existing amendments, there's just a couple as well. All right, so moving on down, we got 10.2.3 is the first state amendment, and then in 1001 we have some changes. Looks like 1001 general just has some editorial changes in here. 1002.3 both has a change and an existing state amendment. So there's a new exception for I occupancy added in here. And our state amendment with the recommendation to adopt or incorporate the model code change, language change into our existing amendment. Leah, do you have more on that one?
Yeah, so the significant change, the new exception for I1 occupancy, it just clarifies that when existing group I1 has partial change of use within the facility, it is not reasonable for a small change of use to trigger major renovations like creating smoke compartments. And I think that's the intent why the exception 2 is added in this section. And I don't think that will increase the cost of construction.
Gotcha.
Remember, it's already an I, you're just changing the use. So you've already, that just FYI, you're not actually changing the occupancy, it's just the use. So I agree with that, so.
Okay. And our next amendments are in 1009. So we'll skip back over to our significant changes report. Looking for 1004. We just have some editorial changes in here.
Right, clarification.
Looks like there's new language added to the structural section. Is it all editorial or is there some more in here?
So this, it's related to risk category 4. Again, it basically protects the non-structural systems and components in the existing buildings being changed to risk category 4. Similar to the level 3 renovation structural portion.
Okay. Then we're moving on to 1009.1 where they clarify the UPC versus the IPC. Looks like the exceptions, chapter 29 of IBC. Looks like all of 1009 amendments just clarify which code book to go to. And all of those are keep the existing amendments in there as well. Moving on to 1011. We have 1011.2 fire protection systems. Non-required automatic sprinkler systems. It clarifies requirements for non-required systems. Option to remove with the approval of the code official. Looks like it's just clarifying language in 1011.
Right, it basically just providing the allowance to remove a system. And I don't think that will increase the cost of construction.
Gotcha. On the ones previous, do we think that they increased the cost?
So 102.3, I don't think that it increased. And then 1004, no. 1006. What did we decide on the risk category for the last one? We said yes to increasing or decrease cost, correct?
Yeah, it would increase the cost.
Yeah.
We have 1011.5 means of egress. We have some new sections in here. New exceptions for I occupancies. I assume it's similar to the 1002.3 changes.
It's similar, but it's a different type of change. It's for guards through the occupiable roof requirements. And this code just, this new language is allowing the ability for such occupancies to provide a safe outdoor space for occupants because it clarifies about guards.
Okay.
And I am not sure if this one would or would not increase the costs. I'd say
what it is you in that one, because I was at the hearings on this one too, it's basically making the height larger than 48 inches. So what they're saying in these I occupancies, if you have an occupied roof up there, you can actually build a higher, because the clinic wants to build a much higher guard or whatever. And some of the fire people were worried about if you built something that was higher, would they still have access to it? And this actually allows in high occupancies, you could build something greater. So because of exactly that, because it's an high occupancy. So, because I hope no one takes this the wrong way, but one of the big arguments, people jumping off a roof or something like that, they're worried that that would happen. That was part of the arguments why they wanted to keep they wanted to be able to build it much higher. So.
Okay.
And I guess there's
I would-
people around the country, which I really didn't understand why people wouldn't allow you to build a guard higher, but I get what the argument was, where I guess there were some that wouldn't. I didn't get this change when I thought you could always do that, but
Yeah,
I was there.
that's my thought. The
That's-
42 inches is a minimum, not a maximum.
I know it didn't make any sense to me either. And that was one, some people argued it too. Just, I mean, I'm probably taking 2 minutes time of people, but I mean, to me, it's kind of a mute point almost, but I think it's a poor change when you could do whatever height you want. You could go 100 feet if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Don, it's
no,
almost like it's not code language. It's more like explanatory.
No, the people that were arguing it were from the hospital industry, the ones that actually work in these buildings and stuff. And when their arguments, when they were saying it, what I remember, this was a long time ago, but what I remember is there were some building officials that weren't allowing it for some reason, and they wanted it in there for the existing building, which I'm like, well, okay. I didn't really understand why, to be honest. So, why it was a problem in the first place, but
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a maximum guard height.
No, I mean, and I've been telling people that it's a minimum code for my entire code career.
Oh yeah, we too. Well, there is some stuff for maximum when you want ductility and stuff in concrete. You can't go in too much. That's on the structural side. But yeah, you're right. Most of it is actually that where I think it's a silly change, but it got voted in. So, I think the code already allows you to do that, as I said earlier.
Absolutely.
All right. Cruising on down to 1011.6.1. Height and area for change to a higher hazard category adds a new exception to this section.
So this one, I think it would reduce the cost of construction just because instead of needing to upgrade floor rating systems, sometimes you don't need to if your floor rating is already 90 minutes and then 2 hours is required when you change your occupancy from group B to group R2. But this is only for fully sprinklered buildings, and the buildings do not include type H occupancy.
Gotcha. And that's the end of chapter 10. Is there anything we want to go back and look at? If not, we're in a position to entertain the motion to move this one to our master document.
Yeah, can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, you can.
Did our state, are we now using R4s in our state?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to be sure, because we used to not do that. We had our own state amendment, so I just wanted to make sure of that.
Yeah, here in the early part of 2024 that was done away with.
Yeah, which is good. I just wanted to, I'm an old guy, so I wanted to be sure I remembered correctly.
Gotcha.
so Dustin, I'll make a motion to move chapter 10 into the master docs.
Thank
Second.
you. Wait, is the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes and brings us to chapter 11. We've got 11 minutes left in today's work.
Chapter 11 should be pretty quick.
Okay.
The existing amendment is just changed to Uniform Plumbing Code, and there are no other changes for the existing amendments.
Okay, plumbing code. Fire protection. So that's all we have in there for chapter 11.
Yes.
Big lift, big lift. Apparently there's a lot of stuff in there in the past, but we're not going over that. So We'll go to significant changes. 11. Go ahead.
1101, I've identified, I don't think there's any increase or decrease of cost of construction. This basically clarifies when there are, for example, like services or systems go through an existing building. When you are adding an addition, what is required. So it clarifies this language, and that's what this whole section is.
Okay. 1102.3.
For 1102.3, so basically, I think it would decrease the cost of construction, because sometimes designers or architects, they add, for example, egress or just elevator. It's to increase the accessibility. So the code just clarifies that if a designer or owner does that, they should not be penalized for an additional building area if it's adding egress and increasing accessibility. It's safer than before.
Okay.
So that's decrease cost of construction, and I don't think additional amendments are needed.
Okay.
The only thing I would say, just, and this is a pet peeve of mine, it's commentary where it says such as elevator and exit stairway shafts. That's such as, I hate that in the code. It should just be non-occupied appendix shall be permitted beyond permitted. But I just wanted to point that out. That's a commentary thing, as such as.
Gotcha. We went to 1103.2. There's a new language added to this section.
So this new language basically addresses when to reset the clock when calculating demand capacity ratios. And I don't calculate demand capacity ratios often, but I think that's what this section is about. If anybody has additional information on this one, please say so.
Yeah, they actually also kicks you into ASC 41 for existing buildings. I thought that had that in here too, and there is methods how to do that. So, you know, the reason why is because as the IBC changes, you can actually exceed a certain amount where you have to update it coincidentally. So when you do the demand capacity ratio, it's weird. It just says for wind, but I thought it was wind and seismic, but I guess it is just for wind. That is, you don't have to do a complete upgrade. And yes, the existing building code kicks you in there anyway. So all the engineers that I know of use ASC 41. So I've never seen it not used.
Okay. Well, that takes us to the end of chapter 11. Anything we want to go back and re-review? If not, we're in the position to entertain the motion.
Make a motion to approve the document.
Okay.
Second, Bill.
Bill, thank you. All those in favor of moving chapter 11 to our master document, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. We're here with 6 minutes left in our day, and I wanted to talk about our next meetings. So I'm confident we'll get to the end of IEBC at the end of, or by the end of next meeting. I've reached out to the mechanical plumbing and energy tag and the MVPE tag, and they have responded to some of our inquiries as far as like where we might want to correlate with them. instead of getting the two groups together, I was just gonna bring their responses to what I had back to the next meeting as well. And then the rest of it, we only had two sections we wanted to correlate with them, and so far they haven't indicated that they had anything they want to correlate with our group. And so it looks like we'll only need to have one correlation between the IBC and IFC meeting, hopefully only one. And I guess for this next meeting on Tuesday, we're looking to have it for 2 hours from 2 to 4 as well. Unless there's any objection to that here today. I want to make sure we have quorum at the end of this process to finalize this portion of our project.
What day were you gonna do it?
Next Tuesday.
And this must be in lieu of Thursday, because Thursday's the 4th, right?
Correct.
Dustin, this is Steve Belzak. I won't be available during that time, just FYI.
Okay. Would it serve the good of the order to, I guess, is there a day that works that I guess I don't know how to phrase the question to get the least amount of answers and get the most amount of information. Are there any folks in here, I guess just by raising your hand, could you indicate if Monday is an available day for you? Say 2 to 4.
Give me a second. I have to. When you say Monday, what date? I got my calendar open. That's
Oh,
July.
July
1st?
I think so, yes.
Boy, I think we have a TCD meeting July
Yeah, we
1st.
do. At 1 o'clock, starts at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
TCD, and that usually goes a couple hours. And that's working on our state amendments too, just FYI. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't need us to have quorum, then I mean, you could always do it without us. So.
Well, so far we got 2 folks missing on Monday. Tuesday would be kind of our next regular day as we've been running right now. We did schedule a meeting out there on Tuesday, but I just want to make sure that we're gonna have the quorum there.
Dustin, I'm sorry, Steve Belzak here. I'll be gone all week, so I won't have that much impact in one way or the
Okay.
other, but just so you know, thanks.
Gotcha. Does anybody have any conflict with Tuesday other than Steve? Not hearing anything. Maybe it's just best to keep it from 2 to 4 on Tuesday. Does that work for folks?
Works for me. I had it in my calendar, so I kept
Okay.
it.
Then we'll keep it at 2 to 4 on Tuesday, and we'll bring some stuff back, and then we'll probably have a little bit of a break for the rest of the week, and potentially the beginning of the next week after as well, while staff is getting the master documents all polished up for everybody. And so that's all I really wanted to cover in our other business. Does anybody else have any other business they'd like to discuss? All right, seeing no hands, I guess it's time to adjourn the meeting then. You guys get 2 minutes back.
Yeah, I hope everyone has a good rest of the day.
Yes, and
Folks as well.
happy weekend
Yeah,
too.
thank you, Dustin.